Next, say CF, you should read this article and the comments. It's not extremely long and it has a great logical appeal to sexual restraint. This is from ethicapolitica.org. And those are all with K's. I'll try to remember to link to all this stuff, but sometimes it gets to be too much. Okay, so this is by Bob Burkett on Civilizations and Sex, August 19, 2014. Henry Ford once famously said, "History is bunk." As the inventor of the assembly line and the Model T automobile, Ford's name is inseparable from the ideal of technological advancement as the driver of human progress. For those who hail modern scientific progress and advancement as a hallmark of a more intelligent, forward-thinking generation, Ford's words are dogma. One of the most impactful changes wrought by high-tech advances is shift in societal views of sexuality. Traditional sexual mores have been dismissed as outdated, especially in an age of artificial contraception and abortifacients that disassociate procreation from a fundamentally life-giving act. Society has reduced sex to a pleasurable pursuit, and as a result, sexual promiscuity and libertinism are increasingly common. Progressives praise the sexual revolution as a period of enlightenment, whereby now people can freely engage in the pleasures of sex, divested of its biological consequences. Even today, the sexual revolution is viewed by some people of all generations as an unquestionably good nexus of beliefs and actions. So is the tradition of sexual morality, in the words of Henry Ford, bunk? Oxford-educated anthropologist J.D. Unwin tangentially addressed this question in Sex and Culture, an evaluation of the sexual practices and morality of 86 different cultures. Unwin's impetus for the project was to test the Freudian theory that civilizational progress was the product of repressed sexuality. This theory of sublimated sexuality states that natural impulses and desires require energy to fulfill, and that this energy, though finite, is fungible. Unwin divided the collective energy of human beings into two categories, expansive and productive. Activities like exploring territory, conquest, colonization, and commerce were deemed expansive. Productive activities designated an advancement within society or a societal flourishing, such as the development of algebra or the power to harness electricity. Thus, the sexual energy of human beings could be redirected towards other aspects of civilizational advancement, such as technological progress, art, architecture, or conquering other peoples. To anticipate an objection, it is worth noting that although Freudian theory has many shortcomings, one can't blindly overlook the validity of certain aspects of his theories, sexual sublimation being one of them. After careful evaluation, a variety of civilizations, including the Romans, Greeks, Sumerians, Moors, Babylonians, and Anglo-Saxons, a clear pattern emerged for Unwin. A perfect correlation between sexual fidelity and civilizational flourishing. Unwin found that discipline in sexual matters appropriated social energy to more civilizational ends, validating Freudian sublimation on a societal level. Unwin remarks, "The evidence that in the past a class has risen to a position of political dominance because of its great energy, and that at the period of its rising, its sexual regulations have always been strict. It has retained its energy and dominated the society so long as its sexual regulations have demanded both prenuptial and postnuptial continence. I know of no exception to these rules." This goes to that retard who's like, maybe it'll be, who cares if they're a weirdo? So what? Weirdos are regressive. Your definition of a weirdo. See, I think weirdos are just people who are slightly off and not completely lost. You know, some weirdos are good people. And the way your definition of a weirdo, no weirdos are good people. So, fuck you. I hope you're still listening. Just so I could say that. Screw you. You're a retard. You're a moron. Leave. Go away. Quit listening now. But what exactly were those strict sexual attitudes and regulations that contributed to societal flourishing? Answer: heterosexual monogamy. For Unwin, the fabric of society was primarily sexual, and heterosexual monogamy was the optimal arrangement for planning, building, protecting, and nurturing the family. If enough heterosexual partners made a monogamous commitment, civilizational energy was directed towards promoting the firmest societal foundation possible, the family. Unfortunately, each civilization allowed its success to alter its moral code and actions because we're blinded by our own successes. We worship them. We make false idols out of our success. And that seems to be the fate of all civilizations. You think you're too smart for morality. Like, Black Einstein, who's transgender, lesbian, in a wheelchair. That guy. Oh, I'm sorry, gender non-specific individual. Excuse me. Though each civilization's success correlated with strict sexual ethics, attitude towards sex became increasingly liberalized and loosened. The consequences of the myth that sexual activity and its impacts could be confined to the private sphere soon became apparent. Premarital, extramarital, and homosexual relationships proliferated, and individuals began placing their individual desires over the common good. An increase in promiscuity corresponded to a subsequent decrease in the social energy required for civilizational maintenance and innovation. Ultimately, each civilization became less cohesive, less aggressive, and less resolute. Civilizations in this liminal phase then collapsed from either 1, an internal anarchic revolution, or 2, conquest by invaders with greater social energy. There you go. And now you know why ISIS is having its way with Europe. So, everybody it's in poor taste that he said that France is this because of that. Imagine my middle finger up right now. Imagine it. I'm not on camera, but imagine it. Everybody who ever doubted me, there you go. Despite the differences between civilizational cultures, environments, and time periods, Unwin saw a clear civilizational cycle throughout. These societies lived in different geographical environments. They belonged to different racial stocks, but the history of their marriage customs is the same. Oh, but there's no universal morality. Different moralities, they bear the same fruit. There's no such thing as universal morality. Interesting that people that follow a specific moral template, good things generally happen for them. In the beginning, each society had the same ideas in regard to sexual regulations, and the same struggles took place. The same sentiments were expressed. The same changes were made, the same results ensued. Each society reduced its sexual opportunity to a minimum, and displaying great social energy, flourished greatly. Then it extended its sexual opportunity, its energy decreased and faded away. The one outstanding feature of the whole story is its unrelieved monogamy. It is no secret that America is the current world superpower, and the increasingly liberalized attitude towards sex in our nation parallel those of the 86 civilizations during their periods of decline. Is this not a huge part of what I do? Is this a sentiment not being proven? As I speak right here, I'm glad this exists because this is far more eloquent than I could be. And I will remember to link to this because this is excellent. Thank you to Tantra Tomato who sent this to me. Thank you very much. Thank you. It is also true that American society has achieved an unprecedented amount of scientific and technological progress, and that many would argue that American progress has cast aside ancient notions of the importance of sexual propriety. Unwin's research identified this attitude as a salient opinion in each of the preceding societies as well. And he said, convinced that the cultural process is a progressive development and that our own culture is the most developed of all cultures, we assume that every change in our cultural condition is evidence of a higher cultural development. And then the article continues. The American idea of being the most advanced of human civilizations is one more example of the unrelieved monotony Unwin identified when uncovering social patterns. Over 5,000 years of human history argue for the prevalence of the same mentality in all of these extinct civilizations, and not one of them has managed to break the cycle. But universal morality doesn't exist. No, it's all relative to the time you live in and the place you live in. It's all relative, isn't it? Well, we're almost done here. We're gonna finish up. One can choose to see Unwin's work as the foretelling of a doomed American civilization, or merely a historical continuity that Americans will overcome because of technological and scientific progress. And this goes out to all the idiots that think like, these places are sexually deviant and they just don't have demographic problems. Fucking retards. Whatever the case, the importance of sexual morality in everyday life should not be overlooked due to its strong correlation with civilizational flourishing. Sexual restraint and ethics are not products of an ancient past that progress can suddenly replace. They are arguably the linchpin of all the technological and scientific progress of today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for sending me this. Thank you so much to this individual, Bob Burkett, for writing this. People need to look at this and not be like, well, Rome did it. Rome did it for 700 years.